can heal, and you can prevent new breakouts from happening. We're going to let 1 million people try Proactive risk-free, get 2 free gifts, and free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. Visit getproactive.com or call 1-800-620-4801. That's 1-800-620-4801.
Mark Twain once said that the secret of success was making your vocation your vacation. And I can't think of anything I'd rather do than save folks money on their car insurance with Geico. I'm proud to have helped millions of drivers save and save big. Hundreds of dollars a year. Come to think of it, my bosses say I should take a vacation. I'll probably go to the beach, get a little sun, see if anyone needs to save money on their car insurance. There I go again.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
KWFM, South Tucson.
The views of this program are not necessarily the views of KWFM Radio, its management, or its sponsors. The host is solely responsible for its content. Enjoy.
Billy Higgins, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my heroes. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome, everybody, inside the studios of KWFM 1330 The Star. This is the Jake Feinberg program, and we're happy to have you all along with us. When I tell my friends that I am interviewing Jack DeJohnette, everyone seems to conjure up their own image. For drummers, they might identify him with technique and musicality. For avid fans, it might conjure up associations with Miles Davis, Joe Henderson, and his work on the ECM label. For this host, Jack DeJohnette represents a titan of humanity, who was one of the leaders of a revolution in music and sociology. He was talented enough to play with major figures, and was able to connect with them not just musically, but emotionally. And this was coupled by the institutions of music, who embodied the true essence of art. What I admire most about Jack is his ability to come into a session of lesser-known, but equally talented cats, and make everyone feel comfortable and swing the band. This combination enhanced countless sessions and made for a more accessible and tolerant atmosphere. In summation, don't resent those who are not as strong, but enhance the social paradigm by sharing your genius. Jack DeJohnette, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Yeah, how you doing, man? It's great to be on your show and say hi to the fans out there.
Absolutely.
And thank you for the work you've been doing.
It's a labor of love, and I mean that in all seriousness, man. I mean, this is a homage to you guys, and it's great to have you on board. I wanted to start by asking you, in your mind, how do you account for this crop of talent that came through starting in the early 1960s? Yourself, Jackie McLean, Herbie Hancock, Roy Brooks, Joe Henderson, Woody Shaw. What were the major factors that contributed to the strength of this generation of players?
Well, I think you have a combination of things. You had the social, economic, and political environment that was going on at that time, and you had people like Miles Davis and you had Sonny Rollins, you had Jackie McLean, just to name a few, Charles Mingus. And you had these people who were considered, trailblazers. You had Mingus, who was not only doing music, he was making social commentary through his music, political commentary. You had Max, and so you had a group of people. We had Coltrane also, who was put the ohm back into jazz, put the spirituality in the music. But also we had a time where it was more elastic, it was more open, it was more, people were trying different things, getting rid of, it was less conservative, we were moving out of conservative into mansions. So, it created an atmosphere where people felt that they could, what shall we say, experiment. So we had, you had people like, which I was a part of. You had Charles Lloyd Quartet, and you had actual radio programming was different also.
Exactly. That was my follow-up question was.
Well, with the advent of FM, which was then at the time, a new frontier, because all the AM stations were, sort of formatted, and classical music, got more there, and then we had stations like in New York, like NEW, and not NEW, and then there was another station, forgot, when, you had a time when Miles was moving into crossover mode, and stations were playing maybe Miles, or maybe Jimi Hendrix, or Laura Nyro, and they were playing, 9-minute, 10-minute cuts.
Right.
Yeah,
no.
It's
what I was going to say.
You remember that probably.
Well, I was born in 1978, so this was all the music that you made. The reason you guys are heroes to me, objective heroes, is because it was all music that was made before I was ever even conceived. And that is, yeah, I am not trying to live vicariously. I'm not trying to live through my past again. I'm living as a young adult with a family in a very, and you brought up several words here. You guys, like I said, I'm going through a very conservative time in our history, and it seemed, whether it was Max or Jackie McLean, yourself, Richard Davis, you were not afraid to say what was on your mind, not just articulating it, but through the music as well. Why were you guys not afraid?
Well, it was, we had the civil rights movement, and the marches, and a lot of stuff happened. Like Kennedy had gotten shot, Martin Luther King had gotten assassinated, and people felt like you're not going to change unless you question the system and you challenge the system. And people like Max were challenged the system. Abby Lincoln, I was working with her, and she was started to gain prominence as a black actress in a movie called Nothing But a Man.
Mm-hmm.
And Max hired me. He picked a trio. I was her trio for some time with Reggie Workman and Cedar Walton, and we played with Abby. And so Abby was, writing music, and she and Max were also very vocal. They would go on television and talk about, Black Power, and Max was writing, "We insist," recognize black music for the creative contribution, and that it gave, not just as entertainment, but as a, I guess the best way to describe it is the griots, really, musicians like that,
mm-hmm.
or kind of like back to Africa, like the griots who play kora, and they have the oral history. They tell the history, or so that was the way that people were demonstrating the Vietnam War. Students were demonstrating against colleges who were, apartheid, and put pressure on them to, people to stop supporting them, and so there was room. You could feel you could do that, and even go to jail when you saw an injustice happening. People could do that, and that was what the democracy meant, that you could demonstrate in check and balance system that really worked.
Right, and what I think, I've done a lot of research on Black Power, and what that means to me, after doing over 150 interviews with your generation, Black Power actually meant education. You guys were actually speaking the truth. And that was extremely intimidating and scary to the media. So the media wound up caricaturing it as, granted, there was violence and there were issues in that movement. But when Joe Henderson said "power to the people," of which you were the drummer on, that meant more expression of who we are as a people, and it was sophisticated. You could not parse it with talking points or social media or any of the crap that goes on today. It was legitimate, substantive stuff.
Well, let's clarify this. When we're talking Black Power, because all of us really know it's all about. It's really not about black and white and compartmentalizing and divide and conquer, separating us as species. Because first of all, I want to clarify, Joe Henderson and everybody, Miles, none of us were racist. We all, dealt with human beings, no matter what color they were. But we also weren't afraid to address an imbalance.
Exactly.
That was happening, that needed to be addressed so that this country could live up to what it said it stands for, And so, it was about really power to the people. I remember, you might remember this, I remember Duke Ellington, it was really, really so great musically. He was being interviewed on television, and the guy said to him, white announcer said to him, "So, did you write this music for your people?" And Duke looked at him and he said, "I knew you were going to ask me." He said, "I'm not writing for, my people. I'm writing for the people."
Exactly.
He corrected the guy so great, not to fall into that trap.
It's and it's partly language. I mean, I agree with you. It was more about saying exactly that. None of those guys, Joe Henderson or Miles or Jackie McLean or yourself, none of you guys were racist, and none of you approached it like that. But what you were really saying was, in order to progress forward, this is how we have to do it. And music ultimately has a spiritual way of motivating all different types of people to think more. And when you talk about them, I think you were thinking about Ed Beach, who did the Riverside radio show in New York as well. When they're playing 9 or 10 minute cuts of expansive, soulful, free spirit music, that's going to affect the consciousness of all different types of people, no matter how, whatever spectrum of your brain is open or not, it's going to open minds. And I'm not delusional. I understand that, you had this confluence of the Vietnam War, and you had, this very big movement, which we will explore later, this very powerful movement in the Bay Area, which is written off as sort of some flower power movement, when in fact it was so much more sophisticated than that.
Yeah.
But it was about saying, we know that there's there is a lot of hostility and racism towards the African American people. We have these civil rights movements. The music pushes society forward. And I remember the percussionist Tony Waters told me, he goes, even through all the times in our political system or our social system where there's been paralysis, the music has always carried us through. And right now, what we're dealing with right now, that's not happening. The music has been stifled to a degree, and instead of carping on what it is now, I really like to focus on that period of time because of the sophistication of it, and also the question I have is, how much credit do you give to those people who didn't play any instruments at all, but who helped foster the music by either like Howard Rumsey, like Nat Hentoff, like Bob Thiel, guys that understood that in order to progress, they had to they wanted people to come in, they'd get out of their way, and they'd make the music. How responsible are those people in the media for covering that?
Well, you also had Ralph Gleason, also.
And Phil Elwood.
Yeah. You know, you also had, what's his name? A.B. Spellman was another one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there were people who really were really good at, you know, covering this. You know, you also had Stanley Crouch. You know, sometimes good, sometimes you know I didn't agree with him. But you know, here's what I'm getting at is that all I have to go back, and I can't go back in a time capsule. So what I do is look at my vinyl records and the artwork and the writing, the way you guys were sold, the way it was marketed was so indelible. I mean, you know, people, those pictures stood out to me enough so that I wanted to reach into the album and pull out Richard Davis. Yeah, but, you know, those people who wrote about it had a love and a passion for the music the way you do, the way I have. Yeah. That's the only way they could ever articulate it that way. I mean, obviously they were schooled and knew how to write well, but, you know, not before texting came into play. But, you know, just being funny. But, you know, it's like, you know, they cared about the music and they wanted to see it prosper and thrive. So they, you know, they wrote it in such a way that a person who was a non-musician or a fan could at least, you know, have a window or have a bridge into what the musicians are trying to put across.
I mean, I talked to Nat Hentoff a little bit when he allows me to stay on the phone with him and doesn't hang up on me. And he said to me that period of his life covering the musicians in the 60s, like yourself and Joe Henderson and Woody Shaw, he said that changed me as a person forever. And it's really about intimacy and people. And it leads into my question here. You know, you're the first guest I've had. You had a life-changing experience when you had an opportunity to play with Coltrane. And I was hoping you could talk to my audience about how this happened and what you actually took away from that experience.
Well, you know, I was familiar with Coltrane before I actually got a chance to play with him because I've been listening to the record. So, you know, he was already recognized as quite a force. But what Coltrane was able to do musically, I got the opportunity to sit in with him at a small club that the quartet was playing at in Chicago called McKee Fitzhugh because Elvin hadn't returned for the last set of the show, the evening. So I had been playing. The owner knew me, and I played the. He knew that I played really pretty well, and I played the jam sessions on the couple of nights that they had them. And so the place was packed and late, and, you know, he wanted John to play. So he asked John to let me play with him. So Coltrane didn't say, you know, no. He just shook his head, and we went up and we played 3-4 numbers. And for me, it was, you know, it was just trying to keep my cool while I'm up on the stage playing with him. Fortunately, I could hold my own. I had been practicing with the records.
Right.
Material. So, you know, it was a trust. First of all, there was a trust thing. He didn't say, can this guy play? He trusted. There was this trust. There was an air of, okay, we'll go up and we'll play. And McCoy and Jimmy, you know, didn't look at me weird. And obviously I was doing okay. I was, you know, nobody looked at me funny. I was holding my own. But playing with Coltrane, I realized why Elvin played as intensely as he did, because Coltrane was like a magnet. He was like a train. You know, you literally, whatever you could throw at him, he could soak it up like a sponge. He was a conscious, a continuous stream of creative consciousness. But it was more like, it was like a sort of a preacher. It was almost like in church, it was like each set, you think, couldn't get any higher, and it would go higher. It was continuously evolving, going higher, higher, and higher. So for me, it was a real highlight of my life, But it was very spiritual of what Train was doing. I mean, it was like being in a Baptist church. I mean, sometimes he would play and you'd see there would be people jumping up like their spirit hit them, like they do in Africa or in the Baptist church. You'd have to have help. They start shaking, and people have to help them go out. It was a communion. So and Coltrane was aware of this, and it was intense. You had to be physically, mentally, spiritually, fit to play that music. But it gave, and it still gives so much even today.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
yeah.
I was fortunate again to get hired by him later on in the mid-'60s, and came back to Chicago with him when the group had changed, and Elvin and Jimmy had left, and Alice and Pharoah Saunders and another fine drummer, what's his name? He just recently passed away.
I don't protest to be a Coltrane expert, so I can't help you out.
No.
Listen,
it'll come back.
It's all right. No,
listen,
we are just getting started with Jack DeJohnette, legendary figure. Jack, before we go to break, I have to ask you, just out of curiosity, you were born in Chicago. Did you ever cross paths with the maniac Phil Upchurch?
Oh yeah, I knew Phil.
Did you know Phil?
I knew Phil, and I played with him. I heard him a lot of times. Yeah.
Did you know him right at that time when the Northern soul scene was really coming into play? I mean, did you meet him at that early age?
I don't know. It might have been before that, because he had made a name for himself around Chicago, and he was something else. Rashid Ali, that's what.
Rashid Ali. Hey,
yeah.
Jack. Listen, we're just getting started, man. We got some music to play. I'm gonna bring you back memory lane, and we got a lot more to talk about. So we're gonna go to a hard news break, come back, and do a whole lot more with Jack DeJohnette. Okay.
Okay.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show on KWFM 1330, The Star.
This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll be right back.
CNN Radio. I'm Barbara Hall. Rick Santorum won the Kansas caucus today, picking up at least 25 of the state's 40 delegates. CNN political director Mark Preston says the victory helps build momentum heading into 3 GOP contests next week.
It's huge in the sense that it's more wind at the back of Rick Santorum heading into a very critical Tuesday primary night, where we're not only going to see Alabama and Mississippi hold their primaries, but Hawaii will also be holding their contest on that night.
Mitt Romney picked up 18 delegates today with caucus wins in Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. Breaking news right now out of Washington State, where we've just learned authorities have arrested a suspect who allegedly shot a female police officer and stabbed a judge and then fled a courthouse south of Seattle yesterday. Explosions rocked a bus terminal in Kenya's capital of Nairobi today, killing at least 3 people. The most trusted name in news. This is CNN Radio.
Motorcyclists often seem rather intimidating. Rough and tumble, real bad jammers. Little do folks know they can actually be quite sensible, especially if they insure their motorcycle with Geico along with their car. Geico's multi-policy discount could save them quite a bit of money. Did I just say bad mamma jammers? Do you ever say something and think, I wish I'd never said that? This is one of them times.
Call Geico or visit geico.com today to see how much our multi-policy discount could save you.
We want to know, how do you use WebEx?
I connect with clients 24/7, at work or at home. WebEx makes me look great, and my clients get a level of service that keeps them loyal and happy.
Connect online and share what's on your computer screen with others, anytime, anywhere, on their desktop, on their laptop, or mobile device. Go to webex.com right now and try WebEx free. WebEx from Cisco, WEBEX.com.
Stay tuned for a $1 million bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. Do you have troubled skin, acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive, your acne can heal, and you can prevent new breakouts from happening. We're going to let 1 million people try Proactive risk-free, get 2 free gifts, and free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. Visit getproactive.com or call 1-800-620-4801. That's 1-800-620-4801.
Mark Twain once said that the secret of success was making your vocation your vacation. And I can't think of anything I'd rather do than save folks money on their car insurance with Geico. I'm proud to have helped millions of drivers save and save big. Hundreds of dollars a year. Come to think of it, my bosses say I should take a vacation. I'll probably go to the beach, get a little sun, see if anyone needs to save money on their car insurance. There I go again.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. When it came time to decide where to buy my daughter a piano last year, the choice was easy. We got it at Hackenberg & Sons Piano Company. Located at 4333 East Broadway Boulevard, Hackenberg & Sons is Tucson's longest-running family-owned piano business. Run by 3 brothers and a son, they pride themselves on superior instruments and customer satisfaction. It's why they've been around so long. And it's why their pianos are used at the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, and many other prestigious institutions. So whether it's for your child, business, or yourself, when you buy a piano, make sure you go to Hackenberg & Sons. It'll be the beginning of a long-lasting partnership. For more information, visit them at hackenbergpiano.com.
Duke Ellington's inspired metaphor, dig not the distortion, got my wheels turning. If you think the sun has set on the golden age of hi-fi, stop the presses. Stereo Hospital is the light at the end of the tunnel. At 4044 East Speedway, it is your oasis in the desert of broken stereo dreams. Whether it's a dead silent amp or a broken needle, owner Jeff Brucker does it all, from the heavy lifting to the icing on the cake. A guaranteed, quick, and reasonably priced repair will put you back on the sunny side of the street. We know that music has charms to soothe the savage beast, so don't cast your old components to the winds. Visit us on the web at stereohospital.com or find us inside the Metronome Music Store, east of Alvernon at 4044 East Speedway. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defense rests.
Brought to you by Mixed Metaphors. In this day and age, people have a lot to protect. You want to know that when you're insuring valuable goods, you have an agent you can trust. Craig Pretzinger is that agent. For auto, home, and life insurance, the Pretzinger Agency is Tucson's most honest and flexible insurance company. Have off-road vehicles or motorhomes? Pretzinger can cover that as well. Pretzinger Agency at 299-5810, located across the street from Sullivan's Steakhouse on the southwest corner of River and Campbell. Trust, passion, and service. The whole package at Pretzinger Agency. Call 299-5810 or text QUOTE to 602-459-5533 to receive a no-obligation quote. That good. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Be a part of a new coalition with Jake Feinberg. The second half of my show starts right now. Welcome back, everybody, inside the studios of KWFM 1330 The Star. And we're joined today by a Hall of Fame legendary drummer Jack DeJohnette. Jack, welcome back.
Okay, nice to be back.
Hey, you know, I wanted to ask you about you know, I was digging through the record bins a while ago, and I came across an album from the late '60s. It was this quintet that consisted of Jerry Hahn, Michael White, Ron McClure, Jack DeJohnette, and I can't focus on the bass player right now, but you guys did a tune called Era.
Ron McClure.
Ron McClure was the bass player, but there was another person. It was a quintet. I've interviewed Jerry Hahn. I've interviewed Michael White. I haven't interviewed Michael White. I've interviewed Jerry Hahn and Ron McClure.
Was it Noel Jukes?
Noel Jukes. Thank you, Noel Jukes. Jack, if you would please talk. That band epitomized music because you were including instruments that were not necessarily associated with the jazz idiom. Yet that was the kind of experimental stuff that was going on at the time. And I was hoping that you could talk about a little bit about your mindset at that time, working with different instruments and working with a band such as that.
Well, you know, it was a recording group. You know, we never did any dates outside the studio. We just got together, and Jerry had this idea to put together, you know, this combination of players. And, you know, out on the West Coast, there were a lot of, like I said, a lot of experimenting going on. There was a Charles Lloyd Quartet. There was there was a band called what was it? Jerry Hahn was working with
the Brotherhood.
Brotherhood, right, with Mike Knock. So everybody was experimenting with fusion, you know, pop, crossover rock, and jazz improvisation. So, in a sense, they'd be giving it, giving the music, so not another identity, but just another face, you know, or different faces, different, musical atmospheres. So, Mike White, we had fun doing that, you know. Especially there was one thing. I think there was something called Arabian.
Arabian, yeah, I love that tune.
And sort of a country and western play on things. I forgot the name of that. Where it says, "Y'all come back, y'all." You hear it talking at the end.
Yeah, no, there's
something like that. I forgot the name of it.
I guess as a non-musician, I wanted to ask you as an example. Unlike Charles Lloyd, where you were on the road vigorously touring, going to the Soviet Union, you know, developing, you know, a live sound and a studio sound, when you walked into a studio session like this, how do you try to fit in? I mean, it can't be that natural. So what kinds of things do you do to sort of get involved and make it easier for everybody else?
Well, actually, it is natural for me
mm-hmm.
because I thrive on diversity. So, you know, the challenges that are represented is just a matter of, you know, it's a matter of just tuning in to the musicians and tuning in to the composer. What's the intention? And also, everybody's there because the players, who the leader of the day wanted something specific from the players, and just because of what we do, put our personal stamps on the composition. So that that's my passion. That's something I love to do, is come in and tune in, and be, if I have some suggestions, if I'm asked for some suggestions, I suggest it. Otherwise, I just do sit down and try and be of service to the music and the musicians,
You've been of service to quite a few sessions, and I'd like to play you a clip of music right now, and let's see if you've heard it in a long time. Come back and talk about it, okay?
Sure.
I could listen to that every day. Do you?
I really don't know what that is. I don't even recognize it. I don't even know that that's me. I don't know what that was you were playing.
Okay, so that was the reason I laughed is because that's really why I do this show, is to play you guys stuff that means so much to me. And the fact is, you probably haven't heard it since the session itself. And that was Romance de Amor, Paul Desmond, with Gabor Szabo on guitar.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was Paul Desmond, but I know I did, but I don't remember that. I never only listened to that record once, I think, after I did it.
Well, you should listen. Maybe you want to listen to it. I just want to say that I take my 1 month old daughter on a walk through the neighborhood every day, and that is always when Paul's solo. That was Paul's first studio gig in about 10 years, and Creed Taylor surrounded him with a pretty high-flying rhythm section. Obviously, yourself, Ron Carter, and Ralph McDonald, who since passed us.
Right.
And it's just so amazing. You're playing. You guys are just so locked in, and then it's like I just want to see when Gabor and Bob James was on piano. You guys reach that apex where it's that climax. It's that feeling. It's just so hot, And when I find myself pushing a stroller up the hill, and I'm like going to pull my hamstring out because I'm walking so fast,
Okay.
It just speaks to the idea of in the session, it was very loose, but it was also at the same time you guys were all listening to each other, and that was evident throughout that period of time.
Yeah. Well, it's still happening now. It's just that there's a crop of young players out there that are really, really very interesting. And anyway,
No, let's talk. Let's talk. You're here on my show. I'd love, to talk about how you feel, because what we talked about early on about the way you guys, the appeal, not just through the music but through the writing and the photography and the how would you how do younger cats who have their own sound and that are trying to build bridges, how do they have the accessibility in this day and age to get their sound out? In your mind, what are the ways they can do that?
Well, there's a number of ways. Some do have their own label. I have my own label, by the way, anyway. And some have distribution deals with people who do that, and some have their own labels and try and do the marketing themselves, and others do it through online, to the internet, just doing downloads, just doing digital album or track downloads. So it's about a variety of ways. But I have to say this, because I'm involved with some of them. Esperanza Spalding is one, and it was amazing on a lot of different levels as a musician.
Can you talk about her a little bit?
As a composer, as a bassist, and as a very, very bright and intelligent, worldly tuned-in musician. And she's not locked into any one particular aspect. She can go anywhere, but she has such a shall we say, dynamic and warm and expansive personality that comes through in everything she does. She's appeared on my record, Sound Travels, along with another great musician coming up, Lionel Luecki, who's from Benin, Africa, who infuses his African sensibility into jazz, and also sings as well. And Ambrose Akinmuzier, another incredible composer and trumpet, who's on Blue Note, who's on a big corporate label, but they're really supporting him. Robert Glasper is another one. Jason Moran, just to name a few people, DJ Al, and drummer-wise, there's quite a few drummers. There's a drummer named Daphnis Duprius. He's a Cuban drummer.
When you look back, how would you compare? I was talking to a drummer earlier this week, Ralph Penland, who was in Freddie Hubbard's band, and he talked about how traditionally jazz festivals would occur at a certain time of year, and the bills were, like you'd have Duke Ellington and Mingus and the Freddie Hubbard Quintet, things like that. What are, talk a little bit about the jazz festivals now and, how they're sponsored and how, you bring up specific individuals that I recognize some of those names, but, you had such an intense amount of leadership and gravitas. How can we build these people into, leaders and give them exposure in sort of a society now that is...
Well, they're already on that, doing that now. The press is writing about them. George Wayne is doing a really great, doing something really great this year where he's focusing on the younger musicians and musicians like myself who work with the younger musicians because he realizes they need to be exposed. The people need to get tuned. They're the next generations, these musicians. And so, he's setting up his Newport Festival for that, to have a platform for these young players to, be the future, the next generations. So they're getting out there. And, some of the presenters, are realizing, they've got to turn to them because, there's not a lot of, the elders, like myself and Roy Haynes. The next in line there is Jeff Tame Watts. Then you've got like I said before, there's drummer-led bands. There's more interest in drummers too as composers as well as band leaders. So there are going to be more festivals, I think, that are representative to that. I tell you something else that is happening too. On the 29th of April, there's going to be an official inauguration of International Jazz Day, which will simultaneously there will be events going on around the world. And I'll be actually at the UN along with a bunch of other musicians, Herbie Hancock, George, what's his last name?
Can't
remember. Anyway, but it's not dying away, man. There's stuff still going on, and a lot of the young players are getting recognized in the polls now. In some of the magazines.
Do you worry? That's the wrong word. You're in New York and you do an extensive amount of traveling, but I can tell you honestly, Tucson, for instance, where I'm broadcasting from live, the Tucson Jazz Society has basically labeled jazz as smooth jazz because that's how they attract people to come in and pay the money. When in fact that is, it's really more about making it expansive music. How do you for what I was?
Well, I'll tell you that. How because of the economy is what it is now. Your presenters need to get audiences there. What they need to do, though, if they're going to do smooth jazz, then they need to some of those groups that get desired fees and get gross the box office. Now, some of that money needs to be used to bring in some of the more adventurous musicians. It doesn't have to be all smooth jazz. It should be a mix, and not just the one thing. And a lot of the festivals around the world do that. You have people like Sting on a so-called jazz festival. A lot of rock pop acts come onto those because the jazz festivals just can't survive on just only the jazz, the main, the experimental jazz or the just straight ahead jazz players.
Right, and it was like.
So I mean, they're trying to keep the music going too, but they have to make money as well. So I mean, this is the dilemma,
It's a dilemma, but it's also worth fleshing out, especially with somebody of your intellect. And the Isle of Wight Pop Festival, 1970, Tiny Tim, Gary Barth said that he followed Tiny Tim onto the stage, and then Joni Mitchell followed them. And the idea that it was it was music. And, I guess I worry a little bit. I don't, it's my cause to basically say, I don't know what the word jazz means, but it needs to go away to the extent that it needs to become more expansive music, more rhythm, percussion, and stuff that I just think are the labels have hurt. And Jack, if we could, we're going to take another quick break, come back and do a little bit more and talk just a little bit more and listen to a little more music, if that's all right.
Okay, but when you play a track, you don't have to play it as long if you want to play some more selections.
You know what, man? That's true, but I also like to get you into the groove. Sometimes it takes a little while for the ears to warm up. For mine, anyway.
Yeah. Well, mine are quicker than yours.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, we'll be right back on the Jake Feinberg Show.
Okay.
CBS News, I'm Sam Litzinger. GOP presidential contender Mitt Romney didn't campaign in Kansas. That helped clear a path for rival Rick Santorum, who's easily won the state's caucuses. CBS News political consultant Dottie Lynch.
This is a big win.
And welcome to a special edition of the Rollover segment of the Jake Feinberg Show. And we're joined by a legendary drummer and a man with much quicker ears than myself, Jack DeJohnette. Jack, thank you for being part of the program.
Yeah, a pleasure.
Hey, I wanted to ask you again, this is about solving these sort of dilemmas or whatever you want to say. When you went to any urban center in the country, in the 60s and 70s, you couldn't help but walk into 5 or 6 different jazz clubs or clubs, just music clubs in general. So you could really, and then you might be there for a week at a time. You might have 6 or 7 engagements each night. So not only was the band getting tighter, but on top of that, you were developing a real rapport with the audience. Therefore, you could come back and they'd know who you were. That intimacy has been taken away. Is there anything in your mind? Like in New York, it would be awfully hard for a band to be able to be put up for 6 nights. The cost of living has become so incredible. So how do you talk to younger musicians about getting comfortable live and doing it on a consistent basis?
Well, the thing is, though, there's more clubs in New York. The groups do work 5 nights a week, there, and also Chicago, Seattle, Boston, L.A., San Francisco. So that is going on, not to the extent that it was then, back at the time you're talking about. But, people still work clubs, And so that's still facility. You know, that's still working. But, you have to create that. The artists have to create a situation where they can play together. I mean, just playing together, even if they just set up an environmental place where they play for the door, you know, just to get the people familiar with them and talking, working on a community basis with people who have for a space, allow them to do that. I know I used to, when we were in Chicago, we used to have what they call lofts and have loft concerts. People just paid whatever they could pay. You know, that way we kept working. I mean, you have to create the environment. Musicians have to be not only musicians, but they have to learn. They have to be entrepreneurs. They have to learn how to present themselves and market themselves.
How do
you have to be able to learn how to do that. The internet is one way. Word of mouth is the other. And, creating a situation. Facebook is another, so it's another, you have to, like the music, like improvisation, people have to be creative, constructively creative.
And so this leads into it. When it comes to the idea of your own label, how much do you tell them, give them advice, and how much do you get out of the way? Because what I'm referring to is Richard Davis did an album, Song for Wounded Knee, with Jack DeJohnette back in 1973. And you know what? You guys looked like you were basically playing loose and free, white T-shirts, big hair, and the names of the songs, Agnewistic, Tricky Dick, you were clearly poking fun at the biggest American branch of government. I don't think our corporate structure would even allow that today. So, I mean, the point is that is what creativity is. That's what you're saying. That's creativity. That's pushing the envelope. Our artists more restricted today because of the corporate structure and the way it's set up.
Actually, they're freer.
They're freer
because of the internet. You keep talking about a corporate structure. Not usually locked in that box, but that's not that all exists. Actually, some corporate, as much as you can be critical of the corporate structure, also that corporate structure gave us the Blue Note Records and, Riverside and, you know what I mean? CBS and all those. I mean, we got access to a lot of great music through some of those corporate companies.
If someone wanted to come out and but if someone as gifted and also as pejorative as Richard Davis wanted to come out with title tracks and put them on iTunes, I don't think that would happen today. There's a lot of reasons there was a lot of strife then, and there's a lot of strife now. And you guys were able to express that because guys...
Yeah, but you see, this brings us right back to what I said before. You create it. I mean, people, you got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got a blog. People put up blogs. I mean, it's also created, opened up where some of the corporate doors closed. These other alternative doors have opened. So you have to be tenacious and be creative, and to learn how to generate an audience on that. You see what I'm saying?
No, I do. And believe me, I use Facebook as a technology medium, but I must tell you that I would be able to go see you 40 years ago, and my access to you would be in a club much closer to you, much more intimate, not on the computer, and I'd be able to actually have access to you. And now, I mean, James Brown used to walk down the street in Cincinnati at King Records, and Ralph Penland would look over and he'd see him walking down the street. No entourages, nobody commanding limos, none of this ego-driven stuff. It was about just holistic music, people being intimate together. And if you can't develop the intimacy with the audience. I mean, you go to any nice jazz club now, to me it strikes as you're there with the audience is there, but it's not the visceral quality that and sort of, again, it doesn't have the same kind of, it just doesn't strike me as to have the same kind of tenacity that it did. It's light, and it's light because somehow that's going to bring in more of an audience. The Facebook thing, I can post this Jack DeJohnette interview and people will love it, okay? But it doesn't bring me any closer to being there at a venue with somebody who has been marketed relentlessly. Like Bob Thiel would say, these liner notes, these records are newspapers of the time. And so the technology has increased, but I think also people think that technology is the end-all be-all, and it is not. It is about human interaction. And in New York, I'm sure it's thriving. But I can tell you, in all the urban centers in this country, we used to have local rags in Chicago and Detroit, Houston, those types of places. The people that used to cover this stuff, they have been cut from the budgets of newspapers. So the lack of media, it seems to me it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, but, Jake, like I said before, one thing closes and new things open, so, again, it would be much worse if we didn't have the Internet, right?
Oh, amen. I'm with you, man.
Because we have to talk about what we got to deal with now. We can talk about what it was then, and that's a memory. That's a memory, and you're trying to keep that alive. But we also have to deal with what we got now. And I'll tell you, like when we talk about some corporations, all corporations aren't necessarily bad. I mean, my label is distributed through a corporation called E1, a distribution corporation, and they're really, really great people. And so, okay, I have some bit of advantage because I have a name and I've been out here for 50 years.
Sure.
But I'm also trying to not rest on, my history. I'm trying to create, relevant, music, for the times. And, it's, you need to figure, you have to have different ways to get the music to people. And that's getting even harder and harder because, it's college radio, and then, the avenues to hear the music it's even a little harder. Although I must say that, for instance, Sound Travels has actually been played on about 52 stations in the States right now. So for me that's good. But I mean, it's still again, networks have to be organized to try and get people to come out more. I mean, but people listen to more music. Music. Here's the other thing. Music is listened to more people who are traveling a lot and in motion a lot. So it becomes sort of like background music. If you get what I'm saying. People don't sit down in front of a hi-fi and sit down and say, "Oh, I'm going to listen to such and such a thing." Right?
I'm not sure. I think I might be in my. I do. I don't know.
Yeah, you do, but I'm saying the majority of kids don't have money to buy CDs, download things. They're on the computer. They got their earphones on. They listen to music 24/7 almost. So the idea of going to hear something live is not, it changes that, what you're talking about, like going to hear somebody. Because they're listening to music all the time. It's not a special event as it would be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you are definitely. I really enjoy jousting with you because you're kind of, it's a chess match, and I'm not. I don't want to be. I mean, listen, Charles Mingus was born in Nogales. Next month there is a park that I'm trying to fundraise for that is going to be open with a monument and dedicated to him, and it's going to be a special event with a lot of great music. But yet I have to go down and speak to the Rotary Board because nobody down there even knows who Mingus is. You know, I mean, again, I'm doing what I can do. I'm from New York. I mean, I'm from Long Island, so I know what New York stands for. But I just promoted a concert last summer in Los Angeles with Carl Burnett and the skipper Henry Franklin in Leimert Park, and Charlie O's, really the last vestige of the last quote unquote jazz club, just closed down there. It's like you feel like this. I agree with you.
Catalina is still there.
Catalina's still, yes. No, dude, you are sharp, man. The thing is, I agree with you. I am not anti-corporate America. I'm not, okay? But I do have a problem when someone like Gary Bartz, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago, and he made an album, a homage to Coltrane, okay? And they ask, and so CD Baby and iTunes, they say, so what it's a jazz album, and Gary's like, no, it's a gospel album. And I know exactly what he's talking about. Yet they say to him, no, we can't do it there because it's not Christian. That to me is limiting what, I mean, just, that's part of it is this constriction on consciousness.
But that's why you have your own label, because you do what you want.
Exactly.
When you want to do it, and you control it.
The Jay Feinberg, always looking under the rocks to find the obscure Jack DeJohnette music. This is a favorite of mine, and we'll try to just play it for your ears, and we'll do it as quick as possible. Okay?
Yeah. How much more time we have?
We'll go 5 minutes.
Okay.
Wah-wah guitars, percussion. I hear Compost, the seventh period. I'm like, is that seventh period, Jim? Is that when we get out of school?
Yeah, great. The Harold Vick. That was a great band.
Was that Harold Vick on horn?
Harold Vick.
Oh my gosh, and Yuma Santos on percussion and
Rockalam Bob Moses. Have you interviewed Rockalam yet?
No, I need. If you have,
you should. You should get a hold of him because he'd be interested for you to talk to.
I would love to talk, and I just want to say, I understand Motown and sort of that there was a whole fusion going on at that time, but that is the bridge that younger musicians, in my mind, take it for what it's worth, they need to go from that because there is so much stimulation going on in that music.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
and really, Jack, we took you over by 15 minutes because you are a hero, and this is a beautiful opportunity. So I'll let you go back to your family and keep swinging. And when I get back to New York with my family, I'll give you a holler. Maybe we can meet up.
Okay, I'll give you just one more bit of advice. Not advice, but if history. That group Compost, we actually opened up for a band called Yes. Remember Yes?
Of course.
Yeah. We opened up for them some years back, and the pop audience really loved what we were doing.
Well, I listen. I have your first. That's off your second album. I have your original album, and
Take Off Your Body. Yeah,
I'm off. I was a little skeptical because I wasn't sure which tracks you were on drums and which ones you were on piano.
I was on the Bob Rockalam was on. Bob Moses was on drum. I was on the clavinet.
The clavinet, of course. Now, Jack D, listen. All the best to you, and keep swinging, and thanks for being a part of the program.
Yeah, you too, man, and great. I really, respect you for what you're trying to do.
All right, the show will go up tonight, so make sure you get a download of it. All right.
Okay.
All right, now take it easy.
Thanks, man.
The Jake Feinberg Show on KWFM 1330, The Star.
Bye bye.